Alright, in a previous video we looked at how we can duplicate Mr. Squirrel here. One of the options was to take a selection tool, draw it around the squirrel, get the little marching ants, then copy, which Control C or Command C, paste, and you'll notice I have another layer that shows up over here. If I move Mr. Squirrel off to the side here, I can see him a little more closely. But the disadvantage of using the selection tool like that was that I have these nasty lines around, and I can turn off that layer to show you that a little more clearly. And we talked about using the eraser tool to soften the edges and get rid of some of those lines and try and get it to blend in. And for this particular image it didn't work too bad. The disadvantage with using the eraser tool, say something like that, is if I turn off my background image, you'll notice I've actually deleted part of the foot here, and some of the edges have gone fairly a little over too soft on my squirrel. Now because I've erased it, the only way I can get it back is to undo the history. So if I back up and I get everything back again. So the kind people at Adobe came up with this really cool idea that maybe we don't need to erase it, maybe we just need to hide it or make it transparent. And that's where something called layer masks came in. So if I go under layer and I find layer mask, you'll see I can reveal all or hide all. If I go hide all, everything disappears. You'll notice over here on my layer palette I have a black square. I'll come over here and I'll use my brush tools and I'll change this to white with my brush tool. Wherever my brush tool went. There it is. And I'll make it a little bit bigger. And I can actually paint Mr. Squirrel back on place here. Just like that. And the nice thing about using layer masks is that if I decide that no, I don't really want that, I can switch to the eraser tool and I can erase the mask but not the squirrel. So say I took out part of his head, rats. I can go back to the brush tool and I can paint them back in. So for this particular case, you'll notice I have a black layer mask. So painting in white creates a hole or a transparency in it. It lets it through and I can see the squirrel. If I right click on this mask, I can delete it, apply it. I'm going to just delete it. There's my original squirrel again. I'm going to go back to layer masks and try a reveal all. Notice I get a white square this time. If I paint in white, nothing happens. If I paint in black, that acts as the eraser and I can start to take away the edges. And again, I'm not losing any information here, or I'm just hiding it. I can go back in here and change the hardness, try and get a little closer without getting too close to them. There we are, good enough for now. I turn back on the other layer and then I can see how these behave. Maybe I'll go back and increase the hardness or decrease the hardness so it's a little softer on the edge. And there it is. Okay, and the nice part is if I change my mind and I got to go back and do something else, I still have all of the original information. If I look at this little link here, this is what ties the two layers together. If I left click on that and turn it off, then I can actually move my squirrel out from underneath that hole. Pardon me, I can move my layer mask right now. I can place it over, move it around. Okay, I could also grab the squirrel and move him around. Okay, we don't particularly want to do that. That's why we just leave them linked all the time, because it defeats the purpose of having a layer mask on it. I can still duplicate the layers. Make sure I'm going to put my link back in there. Duplicate the layers, and it'll create another layer with the same layer mask, so I can still move my squirrel around. And now maybe I realize I want to add a bit more to him, or the matchup isn't perfect. I can still go in brush. And the key with layer masks is to make sure you're clicked on it. So you'll notice there's a square around the image. If I take my white brush right now, I'm going to paint him white because I'm on the actual image layer. Just Control Z there to get back. So I want to make sure I'm on the layer mask before I start painting. And then I can get rid of him. Maybe I'll just leave feet here or something there. Kind of a morbid eagle attack scene or something. So you can see here on the layers palette or layers window how the layer mask is being applied. And that's quick masking, or pardon me, not quick masking, that's a layer mask. And it's a nice easy way to clean up an image, delete things or hide things without actually throwing away the information. So strongly recommend that. It's a good way to do it. And I'll let you play in the next example.